We'll go ahead and get this show started. I see quite a bit of talk going on already in the room. Lisa Remy's in the house, as is Darkwood, Kimberly Kester, Christopher Szolski, Daniel Kester's in the house. Good to see you, my friend. Jenna Ricci from Chino Valley, Darkwood, Christope, Jenny W. from Seattle, where there's a light breeze and sunny skies with blue skies and 67 degrees. Bob Kerflugen's in the house, Prodigal Stranger, Alex Andy. Yeah, a lot of people here already. I just want to catch up with everybody and get down to the bottom of the feed. Few things to let you know. Canadian robot lady Heather says she will try to drop by today. She will try to drop by today. I just sent her a note to remind her that she promised me that yesterday. So Heather should be in the house. Of course, you heard Heather if you saw my most recent Lehto Rama video where I talked about the White Rock, and she read a couple paragraphs from one of my books about the White Rock. So that was, of course, a nice treat that I got her to do for me and for you, the viewers. I appreciate that very much. Also, have to tell you, I'm going to be doing a book signing this upcoming Saturday in Birmingham, Michigan, the town in which I grew up. There's a store called Pasteiners on Woodward Avenue, just north of 14 Mile. They sell books and really, really good store. I go there all the time. They also have a Cars and Coffee every Saturday morning. And I'll be doing a book signing at the Cars and Coffee where I'll have with me my winged car book, my turbine car book, and my Tucker book. And we'll be selling those and I'll be signing them and talking to people. So feel free to stop by. Like I said, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Saturday, the 25th at Pasteiners in Birmingham. And somebody mentioned the smoke. Yeah, I was up north earlier this week. I was headed north and somewhere up near Pinconning, north of Saginaw a bit, I noticed it started looking a little hazy out there. I'm like, that's weird. It's hazy, but it's so hot out, you know? And then stopped to get gas in a little town called Waters, Michigan. I noticed the air smelled like smoke, like a bonfire type smoke. And so by the time I got to Mackinac Bridge, it was so bad you could not see the towers on the bridge until you were almost at them. It was crazy. And normally they're visible from miles and miles and miles away. So I filmed that, of course, because that's what I do. And then it was smoky all day, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and I drove home Friday. It was still pretty bad. Saturday, it cleared up a bit, and today it's just fine. So we got the clear skies now, and it's actually only about 76 degrees outside right now, which is a little cooler than it has been. So I'm happy about that. Mrs. Teresa, how you doing, my friend? Long time no watch. Hope you're doing well. I'm doing very well. Tim Nossum, good afternoon, Steve. Small town girl, 1433. Living in a small town world? A lonely world? Welfare smoke, I just addressed. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone from Flushing, Michigan. Lion Zookeeper from Flushing, Michigan. The comic book guy, does Discovery conflict with the Fifth Amendment? Generally speaking, no, because the Discovery is in civil cases. And if you had a legitimate objection to incriminating yourself during Discovery, you can raise it. Then the question becomes, is that something that, but generally speaking, no. Thomasaurus, do they still have milk truck delivery in Michigan? I believe they do, but I don't know anybody uses it. I know that a house that I grew up in at one point in time had a little milk chute in the back where you could actually open a little door and put things in there, and on the inside you could bring them in. And I've actually seen several homes like that when I was growing up, but that was long gone for the most part. Blah blah blah. No, it was not Purple Haze. Purple Haze. No, it was not Purple Haze. Alan Rittman in South Carolina. Zerlina 001. Hey Steve. Hey Zerlina. David Zarodnansky is seeing the smoke all the way there in New Jersey. Yeah, I believe it's what's amazing is that smoke will stay airborne that long. It just shows you how much there was and how high it got. 2000 MCR, could you correct an error in your could I correct a video, please video? Well, here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking what I'm going to start doing from now on is just not posting any pre-recorded videos. And I will simply post a live stream announcement and announce the topic. And then people can criticize it as I do it. And I will just constantly keep changing it to fix all the mistakes I make as I'm making them. Janice Ellery, hello from Fort Lauderdale. Lucy for Liberty says they've got them milk truck deliveries in Indiana with Oberweis. I'm sure it still exists. I think I see, is it Swan? Is that the name of the company? I see trucks around. I know they do more than milk though. They do all kinds of stuff. They do I think groceries and other things that you might want on a regular basis. MHOA, we had a milk box. Is that a thing that like open a door? Is that part of the house or is that outside on the porch? I'm just curious. Al Miller's checking from Bainbridge Island, Washington. Darkwoods, Purple Rain. Well, it was raining on Friday when I was driving home through the smoke, and all that did was just confuse things. It didn't clear the smoke up any. At least it didn't seem to. Mike Torello says, "Hey, good afternoon, Steve. We have a lighthouse about a half mile out from the shore here in central Jersey. People used to try swimming out to it all the time, but they weren't successful. Don't try the rock. The difference with a white rock is it's shallow water almost all the way out. I think it's like waist deep most of the way out there. But I agree with you. I have no intention of swimming out there. Darkwood, you make mistakes? No, I don't. That's the problem. I don't make any mistakes, but other people think I do, and they're usually wrong. What I love is people will post something wrong and go, just saying, as if putting the phrase just saying after a false statement makes it true. 2 + 2 = 5. Just saying. And I've seen a couple real idiotic comments recently. Something wrong, and then just saying. MH08 milk boxes on the porch. Okay, I remember that. Pat RN. Hello, love your video, sir. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Tony, I'm Bowden. Hello from Oshawa, Ontario, Canada. Sorry for the smoke from the north of our province. Yeah. Schwann's is more of frozen goods, says Lion Zookeeper. But if I ask them to deliver milk, will they? Because I got the impression they delivered all kinds of stuff. Nick Bradley says Swan does frozen meats and desserts. TBOMK, which I'm guessing is to the best of my knowledge. I've never seen that before, but I figured it out. Long Legs says I can talk about anything and it's always a good vibe. I appreciate that. Bob Blah Blah is wondering why you didn't use your drone for the White Rock video. Among other things, I'm not a licensed drone operator yet. I haven't taken the test yet. And so technically speaking, I can't use it for commercial purposes. And I don't even want to go there. But Jolly Roger, hello. Oh, hell yeah. It's my birthday. I get to listen to Lehto live. Hey, if I'd known that, I would have started earlier. Prodigal Stranger, people say, Steve, just saying. Just saying. I had somebody comment on an article I wrote about my 69 Dodge Charger when I pointed out that it had a unibody. And somebody goes, 69 Dodge Chargers had frames. Just saying. What? Oh, Tim Nosmus, just saying is a sarcastic way of ending a sentence. Well, the sad part is when you say it after a false statement, it makes you even look dumber. Oh, Jay Hutt, the milkman may actually be my dad. Just saying. Now, see, there it works. It works there. Oh, boy. Andrew Zubke posting on YouTube is commercial use. Believe it or not, yes, they have prosecuted people for posting things on YouTube and called them commercial use. Absolutely. Yeah, Miko Angel, please do go there, as in get a license for the drone. Oh no, I've got a drone. I've shot some really cool stuff with it. I just can't show it commercially. So, Lewis Browning, Bob Dylan live shows are terrible. He sits in the back of the stage in a hoodie with lights behind him. Doesn't want us taking pictures of him. Doesn't surprise me. He hasn't sounded good live in a little while. I've seen him live before, and yeah. But he's a musical genius. So Brian B, first time here on a Sunday. Usually catch your live streams on Mondays when they are no longer live. Hey, they are better live because you can participate. A-Bomb, hello from St. Louis. Just saying. Dan Boyd reminds us that Chrysler vehicles were unibody since about 1962, except for the Imperials. Oh no, trust me. It's one of those things that I owned the car and lived underneath it quite a bit, working on it. I know it didn't have a frame. Okay, it had a frame. Just saying. Jason Brindamar, hi, Steve and friends. That Jeff. How hard would it be to pass a law to prevent Elios from deliberately lying, law enforcement, and be punished when they are? Well, deliberately lying when? Because the courts have already said that they're allowed to lie as part of an investigation. I mean, can you imagine if they walk into interrogate and you start asking them questions, do they have to tell you the truth? Miko Angel, my t-shirt is still in the back. You know, I've had it hanging out for so long that it is part of the background. I will wear it next week, I promise you. I win Nimmy. Buddy got the cops called for using a drone for a music video of the old school, but had full permission to be there. Oh, that's a whole different ball game as to whether or not you have permission to fly the drone someplace and whether or not you actually need permission to be flying there. Because there's all kinds of wacky laws on that, some of which aren't enforceable and some of which are. Mindbend, this is live? Clutch our pearls. Sig226, he may be a musical genius, but has he ever really sounded good as a singer? Oh, no, I agree with your question rhetorically, assuming that the answer to that is I probably not. And that's what to me has always been the beautiful part about Bob Dylan's story is he wrote music that other people said, wow, that's brilliant. Listen to what I can do with it. Oh boy. Fast Eddie, what color is the cup? Check this out, people. We've got one of the rare match days where things just matched organically, as we like to say. Swamp Rat of courts are all about the truth. Why are cops allowed to lie? They're not allowed to lie in court. You have to understand the whole context of what we're talking about here. So if a police officer on the stand is sworn to tell the truth, has to tell the truth like anybody else. But when they're conducting an investigation, a cop walks up and goes, do you know why I've arrested you? And if you say, yeah, because I killed that guy and I stuck his body underneath the house. Oh, wait, what? Oh. Brian B., I'm actually in Michigan right now, somewhere between Flint and Port Huron on I-69. Head back to New York from Lansing. MSU is here for my daughter's hockey camp. Oh, wow. Well, I assume you're not driving. I've driven that stretch many, many times. And let's see, you're headed back to New York. Are you cutting through Canada, I assume? It's not a bad thing to do, go through Port Huron and head across that way. The Thunder God is checking in from St. Joseph, Michigan. St. Joseph. Darkwood, what is the cost of a drone license? It's not the cost. It's the test is not easy. They make you answer all kinds of questions on stuff that are so irrelevant to what most people do with drones recreationally. It's meaningless. Hey, Lewis, I know that you're a friend of the show and everything, but I don't do politics on Sundays because I don't do politics ever. Tim Nossen, we found your DNA at the scene. Just saying, that's a great example. And if you weren't there, you're gonna be like, that's impossible. If you were there and you go, I guess okay, fine, I did it. Mustang MG05. Hey, Steve, Labadee Rib Fest this week in the Bay City. Come get you some ribs. I saw them doing some kind of big outdoor barbecue in Manchester, Michigan, and the barbecue is like 100 yards long. And I think they used some kind of accelerant to get it going. Richie Rich, you getting smoked out by Canada today? Not today. It cleared up yesterday. But Wednesday through Friday were rough. Janice Ellery says Bob Dylan is kind of an acquired taste. I saw him 2 years ago in Fort Lauderdale. Well, the thing about it is that there's always something interesting about seeing the composer of a song perform it, meaning that presumably that's how he or she hears it in their head, right? So if Bob Dylan hears All Along the Watchtower the way he does it, he hasn't heard Jimi Hendrix's version yet. Fast Eddie 336, and you cut across Canada, you have to have a passport, correct? I remember in the old days, all you needed was a license. Hey, my friend, I remember when you didn't need anything. You just told them you're from the US, they let you in. When you came back, you told them from the US and they let you out. Nobody cared. But yeah, you need a passport now, or you need a I get them confused. There's two different kinds of enhanced or upgraded driver's licenses, and one of them that you can get in Michigan will allow you across the border with just your license. But I still carry my passport when I go to Canada. Baby UFO, aloha law dog, love the show. Thank you, I appreciate that. Blueberry the Great. Have you seen the Odyssey movie? No, I have not, but I love Christopher Nolan, who's the director. Looks like there actually might be a good movie out in the theaters. Yeah, I probably will go see that. I probably will. AD7ZJ flying across Utah on a small plane. Hello. I wonder if this is the first time someone's checked in from an airplane. Louis Browning, we're talking among ourselves, making fun of politics in the background. Well, yeah, but I mean, I'd rather see things here that I can respond to. Yeah, S. Gutok, Bob's singing voice has always been rough. His lyrics and melodies have been top notch. I was so much older than him, younger than that now. I believe that is the best two lines ever written for rock and roll. It contains so much, explains so much, and it's so seemingly simple. And it's brilliant. Real ID driver's license. And there's also an enhanced driver's license. I said there's two different kinds of driver's licenses, one of which is valid for that, one of which is not. And I never get them straight. Miko Angel, Christopher Nolan is one of the greats of all time. I agree. AC Moreland, that looked like a fun place to ride your mini bike. You talking about the video I put up 2 weeks ago about my mini bike? Yeah, that's my backyard. But yeah, it's a lot of fun to ride around out there. Oh, it's getting overgrown. I really need to get back in and not just mow, but I need to get in there and actually trim some of the bushes back on my paths. Prince Albert's checking in from Norfolk, Virginia. Norfolk. Miko Angel, which other Christopher Nolan movies have you seen? All of them? Oh. Um, yeah, no, I'm pretty sure I've seen all of them, and I like them all to varying degrees. I mean, Inception, yeah, I didn't care for all that much, although I still thought it was a fabulous movie. So DePaul is picking zucchini and cucumbers now. Some tomatoes just started to ripen here on Staten Island. I found a patch of blackberries on my property about a week ago, but they're not terribly sweet. So I'll leave them for the animals. Echo Tracks, wish I didn't know now what I didn't know then. That's a good one too. Yeah, Miko Angel points out there's Inception, Interstellar, Tenet, Oppenheimer, Memento, The Odyssey, and of course you missed one. Don't forget he remade Insomnia, but the original Insomnia, I believe, is better. But people in America don't like subtitled movies. And Batman. Christo tried to fly to Canada with a passport card and they wouldn't let me fly. I had to reschedule so I could go home and get my passport. Oh, that's rough. I'm so paranoid I bring my passport even if I don't need it, just in case. Miko Angel, it's my favorite of his movies. Which one? Insomnia or Inception? Inception. Sorry, I was saying Insomnia is good, but it wasn't that good. Mustang MG05, you need a brush hog. No, I don't need to take any brush down. I just need to widen the paths a little bit, which is vertical, you know? Darkwood says my garden is done except for the green onions. Too hot now. Green onions, great song too. Back when they did instrumentals on the radio. Janice Ellery, any thoughts on the Stones' new album? I have not heard any of it. I don't think. Lock Watcher, good afternoon, Steve. Going on a walk with the neighbors shortly. Hey, 182QKFTW. I'm convinced you just do that to see if I can pronounce it correctly. When will they tattoo our IDs on us that would be convenient? I'm waiting for them to say, hey, let's just scan everybody's thumbprint. And everybody will have a reader. Any place you go, just use your thumbprint. Lion Zookeeper, speaking of your mini bike, the day after your video, I saw a news article about someone arrested in Saginaw. I thought it was you. Was they on a mini bike, or you just assumed because they're in Michigan? I hope it was on a mini bike. Yeah, unfortunately, mini bikes and those little ATVs have become quite popular for kids and young adults to rip around on in the streets, and they can get away from cops so easily that they often do things that are a little reckless. Nick Bradley says the passport card is for ground passage only. Alex Nanny, what about your marathons where you cross the bridge? Believe it or not, they tell you that you may need to show it, but no one carries it on them and they never have asked. But they make you show it to them when they give you the race bib and your race stuff. So they have checked you. But, Prince Alberts, I'm considering moving to Michigan to be closer to my friends. Is there anything about Michigan life I should know in advance? Depends what state you're moving from. Do you understand what snow is? If you're in Florida, California, or Arizona, you don't. If you're from Minnesota, you understand. And also depends on what part of the state you're moving to, because there's a lot of stuff going on depending on where you are. Tyler Pasquale, wildlife update. Yeah, I've been recently spotting a skunk in my yard. A skunk, not smelling it, spotting it. Also, I've got, I believe, 3 mother deers. One deer has got 2, twins, and the other 2 deer each have 1 baby each. So there's 4 babies, 3 mothers, and I see them out and about. They're different sizes and so on. Blah, blah, blah. Besides getting on an airplane, I can't think of any reason to have a real ID. It's not actually a card with 1,001 uses. No, it's got the one use, because isn't that the one you get on an airplane with? Tim Nossum with a technical question. Do you edit 360 footage right in Premiere Pro, or do you edit in a 360 program and then put it in Premiere Pro? I'm not even sure how to edit it in Premiere. I use the Insta360 shareware because it's really easy to use. And I render it into a regular format, and then I insert that into the Adobe Premiere to edit the main video. And I've been using that camera a lot because it gets a lot of really cool shots. I shot some really cool stuff up north this past week. So Mike Lackner, your track looked good enough to host a mini bike race. I'd have to set up stands someplace, though. Although there's a place I could do that, too. That Jeff, just be aware that skunks are fearless. Other than that, they're pretty cool. I don't mind them as long as they don't spray anybody that I know. And I don't have dogs. Back when I had dogs, I didn't like skunks around because I had a dog that thought they were cats. I had Wolfie got skunked 3 times. 3 times. I kept trying to explain to him that's not a cat. He's like, yeah, I know that now. DePaul says you also need a real ID to enter federal buildings. Again, not something you're doing a whole lot, probably. Sean M. No, I do not have a snowmobile. I do not. Oh, MHOA, a friend of mine was bitten by a rabid skunk, had to go through all the shots. Wow. Hey, the Canadian robot lady is in the house. That would be Heather, who read 4 paragraphs of my book to spice up my video about the White Rock. Thank you very much. Prince Albert's, I'm in Eastern Virginia, so snow is almost non existent. The place I'm looking at is south of Detroit. Oh, just like in that song, South Detroit. Um, yeah, no. I mean, Detroit's a pretty big town, but you know, it ain't what it used to be. But there's some very nice neighborhoods down that way. But yeah, you're going to encounter snow and ice and sleet and things like that, which might be worse here than you saw in Eastern Virginia. But I don't think a whole lot other than no fault car insurance. The no fault car insurance might be the thing that's going to mess with your head. Let's see here. Why is Simul AC? What about ticks? What about ticks? I've got ticks on my property. I don't include them in my wildlife reports. I've not gotten any ticks on me this year, but I have seen ticks on my property. And I've actually been out working in my yard and I looked down my pants. There's a tick on my leg. So I am very, very diligent about ticks. T-Bone. Hello, Steve from Hickory, North Carolina, and the Hickory Speedway. Thanks for your book. I love Hickory. I've been there many times. That's a birthplace, well, close enough. Bobby Isaac, but that was his home track at the Hickory Motor Speedway. One of the coolest old school tracks still out there, although it's been paved. And I forgot who I interviewed. I think it was Ned Jarrett, who said, you know, when they went and paved that track, like, why did they just leave it dirt? Sean M, what's the top speed for the mini bike? I don't know yet. I've not tried that just yet. I've got a pretty long driveway, but I don't know if it's that long where I want to wind that thing up and check it out. By the way, Fast Eddie says Argentina's my choice. I have proof that during the knockout stages, a friend of mine sent me a text who doesn't like soccer, and he goes, Steve, I'm not going to bet on it. But I'm just curious, who do you pick to win the whole thing? And I said, Argentina. I've got proof. I've got the text. So I picked Argentina. So I'm rooting for Argentina this afternoon. So there you go. Radio Sleeves asks, Argentina or Spain? There you go, Argentina. Jillian loves the mini bike. Sig 226 is south of Canada south of Detroit is Canada, right? Yeah. Windsor is directly south of Detroit, just due to the way the coastline is shaped right there along the Detroit River. Vilefly, take a picture of the RoboCop statue. You know, I've not seen it yet. I know where it is. I don't go down there that often in that part of town. That Jeff says Spain all the way. Well, you know, it's a 50-50 shot on that, my friends. That Jeff says for folks who haven't heard this trick, wear pants like sweats and tuck the ends into your socks to keep ticks off your skin. For me, the real key is I literally will go out and work in my yard, and I know I'm gonna be working at this. I wear long pants, long socks, long sleeve shirt, gloves. If I'm doing something loud, earplugs. If I need eye protection, I'll wear that too. And then when I walk inside, I literally step in the door and everything goes in the washing machine. Everything. So there might be some ticks that have gone through my wash, but there you go. That Jeff, possums and guinea fowl love ticks. You know, there's animals out there that are natural anti-tick agents. Ted Boragina, hey Steve, watch your video partly about what to call people from Michigan, the demonym, and why not Michiganese. Well, I think that's more of an adjective when you say it like that. But the question is, what do you call a person? And I have all kinds of people going, but Steve, Icelander, Greenlander, and yeah, those countries all end with the letter D. Michigan does not have a D on the end of it. If it was Michigan, then it'd be Michigander, obviously. Thomasaurus, best floppers always win. Hey, I forgot the game, but there was a guy who they were gonna call a yellow card on the guy who tripped him, and they went over and they checked that replay, and they reversed it and made it a dive. They said the guy dove, and he already had a yellow card, so he got ejected from the game for taking a dive. And in slow motion, it was so obvious. It was so obvious. Chris Dope. I was in the UP recently and I saw two Lehto pasties. Are they owned by the same person? Yes, no relation to me. And I don't eat there. I've not been in one of those in a long time. Darkwood, why are passports so expensive? That's a legitimate complaint. I would think that it's a government issued document. If we're all, in need of them on one level or another, they shouldn't be so expensive. Brian B, any update on Acme versus Wile E. Coyote watch event? Yeah, we're still working on that. There's a couple issues that have popped up. We may do an earlier event with a different movie simply because the Acme movie might be coming out late enough to where it's going to be in prime run for a while, and we don't want to do this at a prime run theater, right? David Zerdnansky says turkeys eat ticks, as do possums. Yeah, and I've got turkeys. I've got turkeys. Mark Miller says folks get all upset here if you call Coloradoan versus Coloradan. That's the kind of thing, and chances are most people just kind of say what they think feels easier to say. Meow151 says, meow, but that's in the lowercase. Iggy, RLK, invent a new food item called the Michigander. There's a band, there's a guy who calls himself Michigander, and he's a young guy from the Kalamazoo area. Really, really good. I've worn his shirt on camera a couple times. In fact, I was listening to his music earlier today, and he's one of these guys who's putting out music on TikTok, and he got a small record deal. He's got some videos, and he's really good. Michigander, I've seen him live. And in fact, I saw him at St. Andrews Hall a couple years ago, and the place was packed. And I was surprised that many people in Detroit knew who he was that time. So Blueberry the Great, you have wild turkeys. Yes, I've got turkeys on my property. And right now, the turkeys have got baby turkeys, little turkeys. MD Hofsty, good morning. I just woke up from a nap. Oh, that Jeff says $165 for a passport. That's insane. Yeah, they last for 10 years though. So I'm actually on my third passport right now. I think. So Swamp Rat says Coyote versus Acme is slated to be released August 28th. But the problem is, if it's a hit, it'll stay in quote unquote first run for a while, and it won't be available to be shown at secondary theaters. Jerry Dodge, I've got a gal in Kalamazoo. There's also I Found My Baby in Bad Axe, which was a big hit back in the big band era. I Found My Baby in Bad Axe just walking on down the street. Oh boy. Steve Two Clue, I enjoyed your Lehto Rema White Rock video. Thank you. I appreciate that. Isaac Bob York's check in from Sweden. Dan Boyd, I remember in the 70s when it was popular to call people turkeys or jive turkeys. hey, you jive turkey. Slap me five. Janice Ellery thinks Iggy Pop looks bad lately. Had you ever seen him previously? That guy's been taking his shirt off on stage since before they had shirts. I mean, good citizen Jive Turkey. There you go. Echo tracks. Do turkeys lay eggs? I believe like most birds, they lay eggs. Yeah. Why simul AC? If you let a passport expire too long, the process changes from just a simple renewal to needing to provide citizenship proofs like birth certificate, etc. That's why you pay attention when they're about to expire and you just renew it. And all you gotta do is update the photograph. MD Hofsty, I found one of them gas stations near me that carries Hudsonville ice cream. I'm in love. What are you in Michigan? I forgot because I know Hudsonville's got a lot of stuff in Michigan. Jerry Dodge, the Swedish death metal is the best kind of metal. The Finns would disagree with you. AMZ 398, what is the best band from Michigan? Oh, The Frost. Go listen to the song Rock and Roll Music and tell me you don't agree that's the greatest rock and roll song of all time. Blah, blah, blah. I don't understand why the military would use a historic landmark for bombing and target practice like the White Rock. Well, they obviously didn't blow the whole thing up. I just don't think they cared, and there was a war on, and they had more important things to worry about. So, Sergeant Snuggles says Iggy Pop looks like beef jerky. Teddy Barjana says the second channel video with forgetting to add things to videos ended up with me going down a rabbit hole about a series of fires on the same date in 1877, including one that swept by the area of White Rock. I'm assuming that you caught that, right? But I mean, I can't put everything that's known to man in every video. Otherwise, I only need to make one video, but it would take forever. Oh, boy. Sometimes I listen to myself, but who knew the turkeys didn't fly? Well, no, turkeys can fly a little bit, but as God is my witness, I thought turkeys could fly. PDX Mark, no, I've never been to Oshkosh. I'm familiar with it. I know people have gone there. And in fact, I watched Pilot Debrief with Hoover this morning talking about air crashes at the Oshkosh show. Because there have been a few, but of course, put that many vehicles in one place is bound to be accidents. Mike Lackner, didn't Meatloaf once take his shirt off in concert? I was unaware of that. Maybe he wanted to empty the place out. Greg Benson nominates the Youpers for a Michigan band. Swamp rat, wild turkeys roost in low limbs and they don't climb up there. And that's true, by the way. And I say it because I've seen a herd of turkeys up in a tree. And they make a racket too. They can make a racket. Fatty Butterpants says just put at the end of every video to be continued. That's good. I might do that. Well, Bill likes Hoover. Pilot Debrief, one of the greatest channels on YouTube. I love that guy. Never met him, never talked to him. Great guy. Thomas Source, I think everyone in Michigan owns a canoe. Hard to say. I've got one, but I know a lot of people have got kayaks. I think kayaks are becoming more popular than canoes. They cost less and they take up less money. Fast Eddie, what's the average amount of snow you get in your area? I'm in southeastern Michigan. Last couple of years, I've gotten a decent amount of snow, but never more than like a foot of it on the ground. What I measure is how many times I break out the snowblower. So I've got a big old 3-stage Cub Cadet snowblower that throws my snow like into the next time zone. And I had to use it probably 4 or 5 times this year. So if we get 1 inch of snow, don't use it. 3 inches of snow or more, I'll use it. Because I got a truck and a Jeep. So I mean I can drive through snow, but visitors and so on, and FedEx trucks and whatnot. So I had to use my snowboard probably 5 or 6 times last year, which wasn't that bad. Bonnie's sister, how many miles in your Viper? Just a skosh under 11,000, about 10,500, 10,800. Have you ever entered it in a car show? I've never entered it, but I've brought it to car shows. To my mind, a stock Viper. It's not exactly a Duesenberg or something. Great Rock Ranch says, my husband's been watching your videos for a long time. Now I also enjoy them. And our 1-year-old son thinks your voice is peaceful to fall asleep to. I had law students who felt the same way about my voice. But thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Sean Bernard says, because several of my Finnish coworkers were in heavy metal bands, I added, what is your favorite death metal band and how long have you been performing to the job interviews as an icebreaker? Oh boy. Thomasaurus turkeys have a great glide angle. Isn't it basically like almost vertical, but going the other direction? Why Simile C says Hoover is the top air accident debriefer aside from Blanco Lirio, who is great too. Yeah, I think I've seen a few there as well. Boyd Walker says, have you considered a video on the Reckless Ben, bricks and minifigs, et cetera, et cetera? I've not done a video on that, largely because everyone else has. And it just seems to me that at this point there's not much I could add to it, but we'll see. Prince Albert's, what's the difference between a kayak and a canoe? Generally speaking, I think a kayak has sides that come in, whereas a canoe just simply has the sides go up like this and stop. And canoes, I think, tend to be larger, whereas you can get like a one-person kayak. I'm not really sure about a one-person canoe. AZ Desert News says Kid Rock or Eminem being musicians from Michigan. Yeah, in fact, I just watched that documentary about the Woodstock held out in New York, where mayhem ensued. But Kid Rock put on one of the best performances there, and you can find it on the YouTube. His performance of Bow at the Bow in the afternoon, I believe on Saturday. But Tyler Pasquale, speaking of FedEx trucks, how are the bunnies where the last big rock needed to go? We're talking about the big rocks I put on my driveway, correct? I put big rocks down my driveway and I placed them at all the places where obviously trucks would cut across my lawn. Haven't had a single truck put a tire on my lawn since I did that. Not one. Not one. Mark Miller started chewing tobacco to stay awake in school. Just thought I'd share that. Oh. Tigerman 99515. As a pilot, I watch them both, but Pilot Debrief breaks down the whys, which is more interesting. Yeah, I really like the way he explains things. And I'm not a pilot. I've known pilots, but I understand enough of the language, and I really like the way he does it. Brian's got to go at the Canadian border. No data on my phone in Canada. I'll catch the rest tomorrow. Well, thank you for checking in, my friend. Greg Benson saw Deuce and a Half fueling up yesterday and thought it looked fun. Pros and cons? Well, I had one for about 5 years. One of the cons, fueling up. They're a blast, though. They're an absolute blast, but they're huge. I couldn't fit mine in my garage without taking the top and the windshield down. So it was a process to put it in the garage and take it out. But I love taking it to car shows. I love taking it to Woodward Dream Cruise. I love taking it up north and driving over stuff with it. AZ Desert News says I forgot about Ted Nugent. Ted Nugent being from Detroit. Also Grand Funk. And don't forget the Romantics. I mean, we've had some bands out of Detroit. 116-3562. Please stay hydrated. I will do that right now at your suggestion. And by the way, 116-3562. Don't know if you caught it at the top, but I'm doing a book signing at Pasteiner's in Birmingham on Saturday the 25th, 8 o'clock in the morning, 8 till 10, during their Cars and Coffee. I'm not sure which car I'll bring because I got to bring a mountain of books with me. But I may or may not bring one of my nice cars. Depends on the weather. But we'll go from there. But just letting you know because I think you are in the general area. Thomasaurus, is there U.S. waters and Canadian waters in Lake Michigan? Lake Michigan? I hope not. Canada doesn't border Lake Michigan. Lake Huron, yes. Lock Watcher's going to go for a walk now. May listen on the walk. Dan Boyd, Kiss. Wouldn't Kiss generally be considered to be from New York or something? Dan Boyd, the MC5. Of course, they're from Michigan, the MC5. Mark Doherty says deuce snaps don't always stop well. Mine did. And I'll tell you right now, it doesn't matter. The front bumper is like that thick iron. I'd love to see when it hit one of those walls they use to test bumpers. It just knocked the wall over, guaranteed. Mitch Ryder and the Detroit Wheels, David Zernansky. Wake up and do something. Were you born in Michigan? Yes. My parents got mad at me when I asked why I was born in Michigan. They were from Minnesota. Sometimes I list myself. I recently did a road trip and used an old school atlas. It doesn't list atlas. Wait, an atlas not listing atlas? That right there is your problem. Well, Atlas is a very small town, but it's on the map. I mean, Google can find it. But I don't know what the population of Atlas is. It's fairly small. Tom Tuttle says he likes Grand Funk primarily because they were an American band. Hey, they come into your town and they help you party down. Steve BM, ICP, the Insane Clown Posse's from Michigan, which of course explains why they spray Fago from stage. Yeah, Mark Miller says Kiss did have the song Detroit Rock City. Yeah, this was something I remember from being in radio, is that, and this is not something they just said in Detroit, but Detroit had a larger audience of Kiss fans than most other major cities. They got more airplay in Detroit and they sold more records in Detroit than almost any other city. And it was just something that, for whatever reason, clicked really, really well in Detroit. So I know that Kiss always enjoyed Michigan quite a bit. Iowa Nimi, isn't Lake Michigan the only Great Lakes state not shared with Canada? Yes. Florida Bart Fast, I may be wrong, but isn't Uncle Cracker also from Michigan? I believe he is. So I know he got to start with Kid Rock, didn't he? John Weimer's, out of all your cars, what one is your favorite? It's like asking which child is your favorite. I have the Cobra replica by Backdraft, and I've got the Viper, and I like them both equally. I'm not making that up. They're both a blast to drive. They've each got their pros and cons. It just depends on what I feel like driving, but I like them both a lot. DePaul reminds us that Alice Cooper, likewise, is from Detroit. I've met Alice Cooper. I've mentioned that before. Sweet Baby X11. Whoa, Steve is live. Rs 4014 yard wildlife update. Yeah, I mentioned I've got skunks now, or at least a skunk. And I've got some turkeys that have got children, so we'll be seeing more turkeys in the near future. Bob Seeger, of course, is from Detroit. AZ Desert News, did you talk about California trying to slip the mandate on tires? Yeah, I did a video on that about 2 weeks ago, I believe. Good Citizen, Grand Funk Railroad, I mentioned them at the top. Greg Benson says fishing in Lake Superior each summer requires licenses from Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan if you're in the waters around Isle Royal. I believe isn't Isle Royal though technically the isle itself is considered in Michigan, right? But the waters, of course, are a whole different matter. Bucky Angelo, has the closure of Spirit Airlines affected your travel? I have fewer nightmares about flying. Tom OSLX2, what do you feel about the Corvette ZR1X compared to the Viper? I don't know anything about that Corvette. I mean, I like Corvettes. I like the most recent generation of Corvette a lot. It's a car I could imagine myself owning someday. But I've never compared statistics on something like that. Jerry Dodge says when he was younger and had longer hair, people said he looked like Alice Cooper. Sig 226 would be your holy grail car. 69 Dodge Daytona Charger with a Hemi. I've seen a few too, but they're out of my price range right now. Tim Nossum, Sponges from near St. Clair. Yeah. Mike Lackner, can friends wear their shoes in the Viper? You don't make people take off their shoes when they get in a car. It's getting in the house. The real question is, do I let people drive the Viper or the Cobra? And I will let you drive the Cobra if I'm with you. But the Viper is just me. Primarily because it's a clutch and the seat is set really far back. You have to be as tall as me or taller to make it work. Teddy Borgina, isn't Madonna from Detroit or something? Well, something, yeah. She's from Bay City. She also spent some time in Rochester. Then she went to the University of Michigan. Then she moved to New York. So she's from Michigan, yes. Tom Redmond, Rare Earth. Get ready. Oh, boy. Thomasaurus, Spirit Airlines had the same seats as the back of a cop car. I don't know about that. I only flew Spirit one time there and back, and I was not impressed. And I said, never again, never again. Sweaty fat guy, my holy grail car is a 69 Judge Ram Air 4 speed. Which color? Because weren't the Judges just in 2 colors, or were there more? Oh yeah, Dickweed. The white stripes are from Detroit. Mexican Spec is in the house. Hello, Steve. Hello, Mexican Spec, and I salute you. Ask Gutog so I could get a sticker for my door that says you must be this tall to drive this vehicle. Sergeant Snuggles, the Amboy Dukes. Were the rest of the band from Michigan, though? Because I know Ted Nugent was in the Amboy Dukes, but I always thought that may have been with people from out of state, but I could be wrong. Mark Miller, Madonna's from Michigan. My condolences. No, she left a long time ago. She never looked back. Oh, boy. Janice Eller, I'm going to see Buddy Guy this summer. He's 90 years old and still going. Wow. Sweaty fat guy, Carousel Red. They were any color, but I want the orange one. And that's what they called the orange one, right? Carousel red. Isaac Bob York, the MC5. Yeah, somebody mentioned them above. MC5 being from Detroit. That Jeff looking up Steve's dream car. Yeah, good luck with that. You're talking probably around $1 million for a good one. And I hate to drive it, you know. Oh, Elaine 99 V6. Can we expect a video on the Gordie Howe Bridge with a Cobra or Viper? That's an interesting idea. I hadn't even thought about that. Because I mean, I've driven over the bridge to Canada many times. I've also gone through the tunnel many times. There's a tunnel underneath the Detroit River. But the Gordie Howe Bridge might be a fun one to get a ride over. But I'll make sure it's actually opened. My concern is that they'll announce it being open, and then they're going to be like, "Oh, no, 2 more weeks," you know. So Bob Seeger's from Michigan. I think we mentioned him earlier. That Jeff, my quick search found a blue one for 1.5 million. Is that all? Can you make change? I've got. Oh, Daniel Kester, Randolph Mantooth died last Thursday. Yeah, the guy from Emergency. One of my favorite shows as a child, and boy, did that show seem exciting. Today, they're going to handle somebody who had a heart attack, and they're going to do CPR on him. Woo! Prince Alberts, I've heard there are more fake Dodge Daytonas on the road than real ones. Many, many more. I've not seen that many. I mean, I don't know. I mean, people do make fake ones, and I've got no problem with that. But the thing is, it'd be really, really easy to tell. But Mustang MG05 says Madonna swooped into Bay City a few years back to attend her grandmother's funeral, but doesn't spend much time there otherwise. Lewis Browning and Nowhere 1969 Charger 500 with a 426 is for sale. Make a nice Daytona. Problem with that is that car by itself is actually very, very rare. But you're right. That's what they basically did is they took that car because it had the different back glass, nose cone, scoops, and the wing out back, and boom, you got a Daytona. One 1163562 says so get to Birmingham. I think I'll take exit 69 for Big Beaver, which of course is the joke. By the way, I'm going to be going to a car show called Detroit Traffic Jam in Troy on August 2nd. August 2nd, Troy Traffic Jam. And it's actually right near that exit. So if I'm doing reports from out there, I have to mention that because it's true. But actually, you're better off, I think, coming down and bailing off at Square Lake and cutting across to Woodward and taking Woodward down to be shorter. But it's not as funny. So there you go. Sergeant Snuggles' Death was also a great band from Detroit. Never heard of them, and I'm from Detroit. Jerry Dodge says Ozzy proposed to Sharon at Wings Stadium in Kalamazoo, Michigan. That's the kind of thing. Although I know they had a long and loving relationship, she probably did want to kick him about once a week for that because when people say, "Oh, tell us your proposal story," we were in Kalamazoo. That's Ozzy talking. That Jeff, I wouldn't doubt it. Apparently, only 503 were originally built, and it's thought to be around 70 of them still drivable. Of what, the Daytonas? Oh, there's way more than that. I've been to car shows where there's more than 70 there, and there are real ones. Slaughter Bartfast, Bay City is in the Bay City Rollers. Yes and no. They were not from Bay City, Michigan, but they claimed they threw a dart at a map of America and they hit Bay City and they came up with a name. And it's one of those stories that's probably not true, but there you go. Yeah, Sig 226, they're from Scotland. Yes. Mexican Spec, you remember the 1968 Cadillac ambulance they used in the first few episodes of Emergency? Not, I haven't seen the show in 40 years. Why Simul AC? I recently learned about the copper mines in Michigan. Some are ancient, apparently, perhaps even prehistoric. Well, I wrote a book about a guy named Douglas Houghton, and Douglas Houghton was one of the guys credited with first accurately describing the copper deposits up there for European descendants. But yeah, no, they've been mining copper in the UP going back probably thousands of years, and they found copper that was mined in Michigan, and yes, they can prove that all over the place, including far, far away, was being traded. And there was at least one mine that later got turned into a commercial enterprise that was started on the site of an ancient pit dug by natives hundreds, if not thousands of years ago. So there's a lot of fascinating history in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. And that's one of the reasons they call the Keweenaw Peninsula the Copper Country. The Copper Country. Vinny Sluga, yes, we got the Canadian smoke Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and blew out yesterday. It was bad on Thursday and Friday in particular. 116-3562 is wondering, better off hopping a southbound Woodward bus from Auburn Hills to avoid the traffic. On a Saturday morning, there won't be traffic. But hey, if you want to ride a bus on Woodward and tell me about it, knock yourself out. Sometimes I listen to myself since on vacation. I got a Norwegian krone in place of a quarter. Were you in Norway? That wouldn't be that strange. John Weimer says Bill Haley was born in Michigan also. Yeah, I seem to recall hearing that. Bill Haley in the comments. Rock Around the Clock getting a lot of credit for one of the earlier songs mentioning rock and roll to be played on the radio. John Nowak is, in fact, alive in Corpus Christi, Texas. Greg Benson just saw a clip of Almost Stellar, a band of teens from East Lansing who sounded great. We'll have to keep an eye out for them. Have not heard of them. Lock Watcher, neighbors enjoying the stream on our walk today. Cool. Thanks for checking in. Steve says I always look in the Coinstar rejection bin because there's often cool, weird stuff in there. I know people who found things like, 1943, steel pennies or foreign coins or things like that because they get kicked out because they don't recognize it. Jerry Dodge, Wayne Static of Static X was from Michigan. Aaron Freeman says Norwegian coins might be real coins. It's so hard to tell. Dan Boyd, Wayne Fontana, and the Mindbenders. The Game of Love, were they from Michigan? That one doesn't ring a bell. I mean, there's all kinds of, like Question Mark and the Mysterians are from Michigan. A lot of the Motown acts were from Michigan, Isaac Bob York, the former Metallica bass player Jason Newstott, is from Battle Creek. That little guy 17 needs us to wish him luck and perhaps even offer up a prayer, thoughts and prayers, because he's stuck in traffic outside of Montgomery, Alabama. Lewis Browning found a 64 Roosevelt dime in a Coinstar rejection bin because solid silver coins often are kicked out by those machines, which is ironic because they're worth so much more. Prometheus bound by are Your microphone collection is fascinating. Do you have an amateur radio operator in the family? Yeah, but it's unrelated. My oldest brother, Ken, was a ham for many, many years, can do the Morse code thing and everything. But I have the radio. I worked in radio, so I have all the microphones from that time. Dan Boyd says Wayne Fontana was from England. Okay. Super Duper Cooper says you got to quit streaming during the rebroadcast of 80s American Top 40. Is it on Sirius or is it on the radio? I've heard that people now say it's also on the radio as well. I know they do the AT40 oldies, rebroadcasts decades later on Sirius. Arts 4014, how about a trip to Historic Bridge Park located a bit southeast of Battle Creek? Not familiar with it. Swamp Rat, it's on the radio here referring to AT40. Good citizen, baseball player. Are you asking me if I was a baseball player? Or are you asking me about my friend whose son is a baseball player? A.J. Ewing of the Mets is a stepson of a guy I've known since 1972 or something. And he's doing really, really well. The Mets, not so much, but he is doing really, really well. I played baseball too when I was a kid, Little League for a while. Tricky Rich says, when I was paying for gas yesterday, cashier gave me a $5 silver certificate. Those are cool. If it's in rough condition, it's probably worth $5, but it's just cool to have, Going to add that to my collection, seeing how I have no idea where to trade that in at. Chris List says the Iron Bell Trail and North Country Trail run through Historic Bridge Park. Interesting. I was on a portion of the North Country Trail in the Upper Peninsula on Thursday. Mark Miller, as an attorney, does it drive you nuts when police TV shows show an officer breaking the law to catch a perpetrator? Officers certain broke the law. Well, no, because in real life they do that too. It's a question whether they get found guilty or not at the end. Zenza Bill in college at University of Detroit. I used to go parking with my girlfriend out on Belle Isle. I used to see the albino deer there. Yeah, there's deer on Belle Isle, and there've been some unusual ones as well. But you're right, got to keep your eye out for them. Mustang MG05 question mark and the Mysterians recently played here in Bay City. Evidently, they had a couple of hits in the 60s, i.e., they had one 96 Tears. I mean, I know they had put out other records, but that's the only song that got airplay. I worked at oldie stations that played their music, and Question Mark himself, who is a guy who actually had his name legally changed to Question Mark, is a character, to say the least. I've never met him, but everyone I've talked to who has says, yes, he's a very, very entertaining guy. He's what we call eccentric, but a nice guy. Tim Nossen, besides Gross, Eel, and Mackinac, are there other islands people live at in Michigan? Yeah, it depends on how much hardship you want to go through living there. Drummond Island at the far eastern end of the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and there's other islands, but it can be difficult if you're living on an island that you have to go across the water to get to. 1163562 says I watched a podcast with Bill Perry as the guest, and the first thing he brought up was Michiganian versus Michigander. You know what's funny about that? I've had people get angry with me. They're like, you're just making that up. And I'm like, no, I can show you history books, Michigan history books, where they just use the phrase Michiganian. And the popularity of Michigander is more recent. And it's because people don't know the history of it and the fact that it makes no sense. But hey, it could just be me. Arts 4014, you've seen the White Stripes play? No, I have not. Sig226, someone who changed their name to question mark is eccentric. Say it as so. Well, I guess he's even more eccentric than you expect because people just assumed a certain amount of eccentricity. Jay Dave's not here, man. I grew up on Washington Island, Wisconsin. Washington Island, Wisconsin. Zanzibar says, I've been there, Washington Island. Family went on vacation there in the 60s. I mean, when I was a little kid, my family went on vacation for some odd reason to Neebish Island, which is also off the east end of the UP. And I think we took a ferry out there. And there, I mean, there's people who lived out there. And I remember at the time going, wow, what a cool place. But you're kind of stuck out here, aren't you? Joshua Gibson, you watch The Professor of Rock or Rick Beato? I watch Rick Beato all the time. I've seen The Professor of Rock, but Rick Beato fascinates me. Absolutely fascinates me because he's one of these guys where if there was no such thing as YouTube, I know he'd probably be a professor someplace or running his recording studio. But he can explain music so well that people like me with no musical knowledge or no musical talent can understand what he's saying. And so he has that series, what makes this song great? And he'll do a song that I know, he'll do it, and I'm like, oh my, I hadn't even recognized these things about that song. And so it's just kind of mind-blowing. I love the guy. I'd love to meet the guy. Isaac Bob York says the only demonym I know that ends in ander is Laplander, but it works with any place that ends with a D. So Lapland, Greenland, Iceland, Rhode Island, or island, just the word island, Islander, Greenlander. But Michigan doesn't have a D at the end. John Zablek, Steve Lehto's from Detroit. It's one of those things where when people ask you where you're from, you usually give the first general area and you say Detroit. And then if they say, oh, I'm from Detroit also. Where are you from? Then you clarify and specify, well, I was born here, went to school here, my office is here, that kind of thing. Nenson Dubois says, Professor Roxo is getting hit by record companies and it is insane. You mean takedown notices on the music or on the copyright strikes? It happens. One of the reasons it's difficult to talk about music on YouTube. Steve Beam, I was going to ask Google, but I'll ask you, was Gerald Ford related to Henry Ford? I don't believe so. I don't believe so. I'd be surprised. Yeah, Canadian Robot Lady Heather points out that Rick Beato put up a video, I believe 2 days ago, pointing out that Paul McCartney and Mick Jagger will probably never be on his channel. And it's kind of funny because you can tell that deep down he's kind of doing that tongue in cheek because he points out that he knows the publicist for both Paul McCartney and Mick Jagger. And he cannot get them on his show. And yet these people will go on these other shows that have smaller audiences than his. And for some odd reason, people in the PR business have it stuck in their heads that, like, well, YouTube is just YouTube, but wouldn't you rather be on a Good Morning America? And who is going to sell more records? Mick Jagger on Good Morning America or Mick Jagger on Rick Beato? And number one, Rick Beato's probably got a bigger audience. And number two, his audience is more into Mick Jagger than Good Morning America's is, So absolutely, it's a crying shame, but eventually many of them will come around. Tyler Pasquale, ever been to Vegas? Yes, but I'm not a gambler. I'm not a drinker, so there's not much for me to do there. If you're going for the 9-ball pool world championship, that's pretty cool. I love watching 9-ball. Joshua Gibson, did you shoot air rifles as a kid? Yeah, a Crossman 760, a couple daisies. I had probably 3 or 4. Tiger Man, are you at the point where you need to build a new and bigger garage? I hope not. I built a new garage last year. I already have 2 garages. Zenzabil, when somebody asks, "Where are you from in Michigan?" I show them the hand, especially the Lower Peninsula, right? John Welch says that a Marble's Arms of Gladstone, Michigan, UP made a compass carried by Charles Lindbergh across the Atlantic. I didn't know that, but it's very cool. What I can tell you is that there is a company in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan that makes hardwood floors. And all of the floors that are used by the NCAA in the tournament for basketball are all made there. And it's their one big industry in that town. That Jeff says the problem with Professor of Rock is that he'll have an artist in an interview, gets permission for them to play the parts of the music, and the record executives hit him with a strike. But that's the problem, is that the musician might not have the ability to grant that permission. There's somebody who's in charge of that at a record company, and he would need to get permission from the record company. And even then, the way the YouTube system is set up, it's still going to file the strikes. It's just a question of whether somebody going to override the strikes, and it's not worth the hassle. Mike Campbell is looking for a small bore set of small block Chevrolet steel shim gaskets, like 15,000 feet, for the small bore 283, not the generic 350. And please contact me if you got those. Lion Zookeeper, I like Rick Beato until he goes all music theory. Then I get bored. Yeah, but usually he doesn't go that far into it. And even when he does, he explains it in a way that I go, it still kind of makes sense to me. So, yeah, Canadian Robot Lady points out that some of the views on the competing channels that Rick Beato was talking about were dismal. Dismal. Good word there. Dismal. Dismal. I gotta remember that one. Haven't used that in a while. I've been using dire a lot lately. That's dire. D-I-R-E. Dire. But that's the funny thing is I hate to toot my own horn here. When I was in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan last week, once in Houghton and once in Calumet, had someone walk up and go, "Excuse me, you're Steve Lehto. You're the guy from the YouTube channel." Now, yes, I am. Shake hands. I give him a business card, chat for a few minutes. But people don't think YouTube is real because it's not like on television. It's not over the air or whatever. And I can tell you right now, when I worked in radio, all we cared about was numbers. I have a much bigger audience now than I ever had on the radio. And I'll take this audience all day long. And like, as I like to say, and twice on Sunday. Standard deviation, Red Rider. No, I never had the Red Rider BB gun because, of course, you have that, you'll put your eye out, kid. Miko Angel prefers snooker. So do I. Oh, boy. Intimately rearranged. I frequently travel through Hurley, Ironwood, and Hurley is the Wisconsin side of Ironwood up in the northern parts of Michigan, Wisconsin. And noticed and adopt a highway sign dedicated to Eli Lehto. I'm sure a relative. No relative, but near the Little Finland Cultural Center. There's a lot of Finns up in that area. Lehto is a very, very common last name for Finland. Todd Bellows. Love your mini bike video. Brought back good memories. It's the funny thing is I had several people when I was shooting it go, putting up a video about you riding a mini bike in your own backyard. Yes. One, why'd you buy a mini bike? And two, who cares? I said, no. Trust me. Trust me. People in what I like to call my cohort, that is roughly my age group and probably men, are really going to dig the mini bike video. And they appeared to. Wake up and do something. I could run my Daisy pump action like Chuck Connors. Hey, I can I can hit a dime at about 100 yards when I cross my 760, okay? Oh. Jerry Dodge, I have a freckle on the back of my left hand, roughly at the location of Battle Creek. Perhaps a sign I need to move there. I'm curious. Has anybody ever tattooed a map of Michigan on the back of their hand or the front of their hand? But the back would be better, I think. I'm curious about that. 1163562. Wasn't Kingsford charcoal started because Ford needed to dispose of scrap wood? I've heard a variety of stories about that, but yeah, something to that effect. Jerry Dodge, Mackinac Island. People do live on Mackinac Island. Yeah, I always forget that. There's a lot of people out there. But I always think it was a tourist destination, but there are people who live there year round on Mackinac Island. Steve BM says, and a disclaimer, I don't own the rights to this music, doesn't work. I like how people will just post stuff on YouTube and go, I don't own the rights to this. Oh, you don't own the rights to Apocalypse Now? Why not? Canadian Robot Lady asks, what about a glove with a map of Michigan on the left hand? Great marketing. I'm surprised nobody's done it because you understand you can also go like, hang on, go like this from your viewpoint, and this is the Lower Peninsula, this is the Upper Peninsula, and that's the Keweenaw Peninsula, and it actually works. It works, but you got to put your hands like that. So, John Nowak Jr. had mini bikes growing up. Lock Watcher just got back from the walk where he said it was hot out. Zenza Bill been to Mackinac Island several times. Yeah, I've been there quite a few times also. A lot of history out there. There have been people squabbling over the island for quite some time. John Tippin, shout out from Marshall, Michigan. Marshall, Michigan. A lot of beautiful homes in Marshall, Michigan. Marshall, Michigan is known as a small town not far off the freeway with a bunch of really beautiful old homes on it. Lock Watcher, do you remember when they brought cars onto Mackinac Island for a film? Somewhere in Time? I know portions of it were shot in the Grand Hotel. Tim Nosman says, I don't own the rights is the equivalent of I do not give Facebook my permission. Yeah, what's funny is I saw somebody do that last week. And people, or the other one is, I tried this and it worked. Cut and paste everything I write right here, and then watch. Oh boy. Canadian Robot Lady might know a seamstress that could make that set of gloves happen. So what do? Do I outline my hand and send you the outlines? I mean, do I send the outlines to somebody? 1163562 says, I always wanted to get a Huey Cobra. Hook up loudspeakers and blare Ride of the Valkyries just to freak people out. Hey, I got an idea for a great YouTube prank. Let's see how much it costs to rent a Huey Cobra for like an hour. Put the loudspeakers on it. We'll film it, and we'll put that on YouTube. Yeah, Lock Watcher says they brought cars onto the island for Somewhere in Time. Fatima Butterpants says you could own the rights and still get a strike from YouTube. Well, and the other problem, of course, is that the original strikes are almost always created by an algorithm that's simply scanning the videos and looking for things. And then you have to appeal that if they got it wrong. Heather says outline the hand for glove sizing. Okay. 1163562. What's a Huey Cobra? Didn't you just mention one above? I'm confused. You said I always wanted to get a Huey. Isn't the Huey Cobra what you're looking for? Oh. Good citizen, come back to me. STP World says I got a strike for public domain music from BMG. Well, I'm telling you right now that I don't have music on any of my videos, and there's a reason for it. And I know people who put music in their videos and they go, yeah, but you can buy your music here. You can get licensed here. You can just, and I've heard so many people say, I've got licensed music and I got hit with a strike. And I don't want to deal with that. So Mary EM says that she just looked and they have mittens with a map of Michigan printed on them. I assume they did. We can't be the first people who thought of it. Fred Blowers and Mackinac Island banned gas cars. Can you bring an electric car? I think they banned all cars. I don't think they had to make it specific that way. Tiger Man 99515. There's a story there somewhere. Why no vehicles in Mackinac? It's just something they did a long, long time ago. And it's primarily because the island is small, the downtown area is even smaller and older, and the streets aren't that wide. And there's not that many people out there. And the first people out there say, hey, how about this? We'll just keep horses out here, but and bicycles, but no cars. And they passed that a long time ago, and they've been militant about it. And very, very few exceptions. Matt, or I don't think they allow electric bikes. I'm not sure about that. I don't know. I don't know. All I know about helicopters, I learned from a book called Chicken Hawk. And there was a guy in Vietnam who flew Huey Cobras. And the book was fascinating, but I read it a long time ago. Tiger Man. So where does all the manure go? They've got people walking around the streets with shovels and brooms, and they do a decent job of cleaning it up. But you will see some horse droppings and other things that horses do when they're outside. If you spend time on Mackinac Island, it's just part of the scenery. Josh Holman, I believe emergency vehicles are the exception. Yeah, there's like I believe there's ambulances and fire trucks. Arts 4014 Red Chicken Hawk, great book, or at least agrees with me on it being a great book. Mark Miller, so what are the odds of Argentina winning? I don't know. Can somebody look that up? I did not bet on the text. I don't bet on sports because to me it takes the fun out of the game. You know, if my favorite team wins, I don't care if they win by 5 or win by 50. Oh, they won, but they didn't beat the spread, so you lost. Oh. Fatima Butter Pants, it's all been done. A lesser known track by the Bare Naked Ladies. I've seen them live 3 times. Great show. Mark Miller, pre World Cup. I wonder what the odds were. It's always fun to watch when people bet on things like that, like before the tournament starts, you know, and they got money on a team that gets knocked out real early. Prince Albert's uncle flew Hueys in Vietnam. He did SAR and medevac for several years. Search and rescue, I'm guessing. 116-3562 have flown in an R-44 over Detroit. The guy doing the flying did an auto rotation. I haven't been in a helicopter since. Auto rotation, of course, is when you glide to the ground in a helicopter, and it's not always fun. I've actually seen those Chinooks, the dual rotors, um, flying by. About once a month, I see them go by and I hear them long before I can see them. It's a really, really distinctive thumping sound they make. That's just when you see something that large flying that slowly, like you're like, it doesn't seem right. Nenson Dubois, I'm too poor to bet on sports. That Jeff says a friend of his got hit with a copyright strike and responded, but I'm the author. And they wouldn't believe him until his lawyer sent a letter. Bob blah blah says Chinook flew over his house a couple hours ago. Did you hear it? I bet you did. I bet you did. Arts 4014, got to run. Have a good weekend. Steve and everyone, good week. Sorry. Belius is Kingsford. Ford used so much wood that Henry Ford used Edward Kingsford to acquire timber property. Ford had a chemist formulate charcoal pillows, first called Ford Charcoal, then sold it and renamed. And believe it or not, one of the, and I hate to keep returning to the Upper Peninsula on these stories, but in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, there's a little town called Alberta, not far from a town called Bovine, south of Lance. And there's a whole bunch of buildings out there, and it says Ford out in front in script written on the ground. And there was a sawmill there back in the early 1900s where Ford basically created his own lumber, chopped down local trees, ran it through there. And so when he was done, he had all kinds of wood left over and sawdust and things like that. And I think they just realized, they're like, what else can we do with this leftover stuff? Now, I know they used a lot of that to power the steam engines that drove the sawmill, but I guess they had even more than that left over. So Tim Noss, my first week in Detroit, I witnessed a Coast Guard helicopter. Was in awe. They're pretty large machines. Those things are cool. Those things are really cool. Sig 226, my father was a crew chief on CH-46 when he was in the Marines in Vietnam. They're new helicopters at the time. Darkwood ospreys are even louder than Chinooks. I've never seen an osprey flying in real life. I've seen video of it. I've photographs and stuff. I've never seen one flying. Lynn Butcher says Mackinac Island allows certain e-bikes for mobility challenged people. Application must be submitted in advance and a fee paid and bike tagged prior to use on the island. Jillian Shaban, bye-bye, everyone. Hope you enjoy your Sunday. Actually, she just said bye, not bye-bye. I'm trying to read like 6 things at once. A-Bomb says you can have cars on Catalina, but you can't have a golf cart. Interestingly, golf carts are not allowed on Mackinac Island. I remember when that was a big thing in the news. And there were people claiming, well, what about handicapped people? And they're like, well, that's one thing, but golf carts, no. Just Lucky 13, Coast Guard helicopter flies over my house often here on the Oregon coast, Seal Rock. Darkwood had ospreys training over my house. They flew over hundreds of times. Are they louder than Chinooks? 116-3562. The C5 Galaxy is so large, the Wright brothers' first flight could have happened in its cargo hold. What's that big Russian plane? It's a huge Russian cargo plane. I don't think they're flying anymore, but I've seen documentaries on them. It's just it's stunning to see something that large fly. Antonov, Jerry Dodge, thank you. AN225. Other people caught that as well. Yeah, Rex Voucher, Osprey set off alarms for miles, not a subtle way to fly. Mark Miller in Colorado, the warm, windy springs winds are called Chinook winds. Bonnie's sister seen multi-popular YouTube channels accepted to fly with the Blue Angels. Tell the Blue Angels publicly you're ready to go. I wonder how I'd do. I think I'd probably do okay, but you never know. Zenzabel points out that'd be a Ukrainian plane, the AN225. Million-pound payload. And the last one was destroyed in the Ukraine war, SIG 226. Mindbender, you going to do the Labor Day walk in the Big Mac? DOT is posting on the freeways. It'll be closed from 6 a.m. till noon on that day. Well, yeah, they do that every year. Although they did not do the bridge walk on 2020 for COVID, but I probably will. I do that almost every year. Zenzabil, no, I've never been to Oshkosh. Somebody asked that earlier. Everything. Wait, where'd it go? Message retracted. Yeah, Prince Albert, you do great with the Blue Angels until you get the part where they want you to pass out. Well, that's the thing. If the guy is messing with you, there's things he can do to. The question is he want someone getting sick in the back of his jet? Bonnie's sister, Nita, yes or no? Would you go flying with the Blue Angels? I'm going to say no, simply because if I said yes, some people are going to go, "Hey, did you ever get that right?" It's like it's not going to happen, obviously. Steve asks, "Do you have to take off your shoes before you get to fly with the Blue Angels?" I've never actually heard people taking off their shoes to get into vehicles. I've never heard that. I mean, I understand if I had like ice skates on and I was going to get into your boat, you might say, "Can you please take those off?" But David Zerdnansky says Blue Angel number 3 is currently suspended for an unauthorized low-level overflight. That's not good. Iggy RLK says at the time of posting, this is the last message posted. And it was true at the time it was posted. Steve G says this is fun. Just saying. But see, if it's a true statement, it works. It just makes the untrue statements really stupid. Sometimes I listen to myself says the Blue Angels have a fat Albert that uses rockets to launch a C-130 on a short runway. That's one where you've really got to have faith in both your equipment and your skills as a pilot. Oh, Canadian Robot Lady points out that it makes sense to take your shoes off if you're a person wearing heels when you drive. No. I got news for you, Heather. I've never worn heels driving. I only wear them around the house. I mean, I do pay attention to the shoes I wear. Believe it or not, in my Viper, the pedals are kind of close together, and so I can't wear like big like cross trainers. I've got to wear slightly less bulky shoes. But no, I'm not wearing heels driving any of my cars. Blah 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 says you can leave your hat on. MHOA to wear heels to aerate my yard. I would name my boots have heels, but they really aren't mini skirt worthy. But do they make your legs look longer? Josh C's ever watched the STOL competition, the short takeoff and landing? Yes. It's amazing to see. I don't remember the name or model of the plane, but there's a top wing Bush airplane that's got those big bouncy tires on it. And I've seen one of those guys basically bring one to an like a almost perfect stall and just drop it the last foot onto the ground, which is amazing. 1163562 traffic's low spark of high heeled boys. That's a throwback. And that's also one which I remember hearing 1,000 times going, what's this song about? Daniel Ward says Mackinac gets 1 million people in 3 months. Cars would be a problem. Well, also, like, where would you go? Everything you want to do is within walking distance of the dock. And now it's true that you can go out around the island, you can ride bicycles or take a carriage. But like if you rented a car in town, what would you do? Drive around the island once and you're done. Like it cars wouldn't be practical or useful out there for the most part. Tigerman 99515, the high wing Tundra tires. Piper Cub, Super Cub, SIG 226. Nenson Dubois, been fun, have to go. Canadian robot lady have punched a hole in the floor carpet from wearing stilettos on the left driver's side. Realized then I should be wearing them. Steve Kelleher says Coyote versus Acme coming to my local drive-in theater September 11th. Yeah, and see at that point, I'm not sure if it's out of its primary rotation or not. I got the shouldn't. I actually said shouldn't, I believe, when I read it. Totes Walker, all right, this nerd needs a nap. That Jeff, y'all have fun. I'm heading out. Yeah, we're getting close to that time. 1163562 back in 2005, stayed at the Grand Hotel for my parents' 25th anniversary. It was an experience. I've never stayed there. I've been in there before. And it's cool and it's a throwback. It's like a time machine. Mark Miller quotes Gary Newman, here in my car, I feel safest of all. I've seen Gary Newman live a few times, puts on great shows. Sometimes I listen to myself as a comment about Heather driving with stilettos on. Jerry Dodge doesn't like the song Cars. What's ironic is that's the song he's known for in America, and I don't like it either. To me, it's annoying, but he has a lot of other good stuff. The Prodigal Stranger says the Grand Hotel is a great song by Procol Harum. Never heard it. Free the Birds. My parents' honeymoon on Mackinac, but never pronounced it right. They didn't call it Mackinac, did they? I tell people this story. They don't believe me. I had a fourth grade teacher. I remember her name and everything. And she actually corrected me when I called it the Mackinac Bridge. She goes, no, it's actually the Mackinac Bridge. And I go, no, it's Mackinac. She goes, no, it's Mackinac. I said, it's Mackinac. And she goes, no. Look at a map. Mackinac City is AW. Mackinac is AC. I go, Mackinac, I think it's French. She goes, doesn't matter. She goes, if they wanted to pronounce it Mackinac, they'd spell it with a W. As a teacher. Elementary school teacher. Just a moron teaching kids. Sometimes I listen to myself, usually washes cars during the live streams, but it's supposed to rain in an hour, so he's holding off. Yeah, don't wash your car, it'll make it rain. Rex Voucher, Governor Mansion on Mackinac Island. There is a residence on Mackinac Island that is owned by the state of Michigan, reserved for the governor. It's not the official like year-round place she lives, though. Sig 226, the French can't spell. Well, obviously, all these silent letters. Why do you need a silent letters? Don't use it. But I'm joking. I'm joking. Jerry dodged the rain the other day, left a layer of ash in my car from all the smoke. I had a layer of ash in my car overnight, just parked in Calumet in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan last week because that's how much ash was in the air. It was coating everything. David Burkhart, my third grade teacher told me I misspelled my name because I didn't put an H in Burkhart. Should the teacher go check the roster and see what the roster says? William Page is checking in from Odessa, Texas. Prince Albert's got to go. Time to get ready for the finals. Now, I know they claim the game starts at 3. The kick isn't at 3, though, is it? You know, like the Super Bowl, they'll go, oh, the game's at 3, and it's actually kickoff at 3:45. I don't want to watch all the pregame stuff. I just want to watch the game. Swamp Rat, I had a teacher that constantly added an on to the end of my last name. Image Doc Ray, I pointed out at the top that I actually predicted Argentina would win overall back during the group stage. And I texted a friend of mine that, and I said, I'm not a betting man, but that's who I'm pulling for, and that's who I think will win. So we'll see. There's been much debate, of course, between the two, and many people like Spain, which is perfectly reasonable to do. Dave Burkhart says, my mom sent a note to the teacher telling her she gets an F for getting my name wrong. Free the Birds loathes soccer. I'm glad it's almost over. Well, one thing I'll tell you, and this is the thing I'm going to tell you about soccer. I played soccer in high school, so I actually do have a thing for it. But soccer is cool in one sense, in that it is a global sport. And like we have the World Series of baseball, and it's usually 2 American teams playing each other to claim the World Series. Just stupid. Whereas in soccer, let's suppose you're a guy who plays for Argentina. Okay, you might go play in the Premier League in England or someplace where they pay you a ton of money to play for a team that's local there, but it's made it for people all over the world. But once every few years, you go back and you play for your home country, and it's a whole different thing. And so they have all these different tournaments, the champions tournaments and the World Cup, and it's just a cool idea. And you know, most other sports don't do it quite like that. So I do like that aspect of it. I wish the American teams were better, but what are you gonna do? Isaac Bob York says the game starts at 3 p.m. Central. Well, I believe everything says it's 3 p.m. Eastern time, but the question is when is the kickoff? And Steve points out it's football everywhere else. Tim Nossen points out the word Miss Universe. The phrase is the most misleading title of all time. That's true, although we have not gotten any complaints yet from anybody who feels left out. Some weird beast is going to come down here with like 3 heads and like flippers and sharp teeth and demand to be in the Miss Universe contest. And we'll have to let her in. Something to list myself says what I think is really cool is that these teams hadn't played together until the World Cup. That's true. They're basically all-star teams from regions. Image Doc Ray, is it called the kickoff? I've heard both kickoff and kick. Blah blah blah. But does she look good in the bathing suit? Might not even be wearing anything, which I think gets her street cred. Canadian Robot Lady. Misspelled last name is a story of my life, too. That's why I don't use it. What's ironic in that comment there is the fact that my last name has 5 letters to it, and it's been misspelled by everybody over the years, only because non-Finns don't know what it is. The Prodigal Stranger, there's a halftime show. Yeah, I mean, there's a point in time where there's nothing happening on the field otherwise. So Swamp Rat, I think Mark Miller put a B where he meant to put an M. Oh, Lehto, Layto. I've seen it a million times. Bonnie's sister, remind me again about your book signing. Thank you for plugging that. So we are getting close to the top of the hour. I'm doing a book signing at Pasteiner's in Birmingham, Michigan, this upcoming Saturday from 8 in the morning till 10 in the morning, which is the 2 hours they run their cars and coffee. I'll have my Turbine Car book, my Tucker book, and my Winged Car books with me and selling them at Pasteiner's. I'll be signing them and hanging out and talking to people and whatnot. So if you're in the area, please stop by. And please, if you are somebody who checks in on things like this, please tell me, go, Steve, I am so-and-so on YouTube or whatever. And I'd be happy to meet you. Also got to let you know, oh, I forgot to show you my show and tell. I was in the UP last week, and I went to an antique shop. They had all kinds of cool stuff. And I was looking for insulators, glass insulators. They didn't have any. But they had this bottle from the Calumet Bottling Works. And it's quite old. Same glass you'd find in an insulator, probably. But it's so old that the seam doesn't even go up into the top here. It stops down here. So it's a very, very old bottle. I bought that. It's going to go on the shelf behind me back there as soon as I find a place to put it. But I did pick that up while I was in Calumet. But it is from the Calumet Bottling Works. And don't know the exact date, but it's quite old. So it's pretty cool. Swamp Rat, I have some glass insulators. I've got 2 or 3 now. But Miko Angel, what's the significance of the seam? Well, if you look at a bottle from the old days, there's a seam up the side because the bottle was made in halves. But apparently the technology didn't exist to make the top quite as accurate as they needed to. So they would put the 2 halves together and then the top would get put on separately. And then later bottles would you'd see a seam going all the way up and through the top. So the seam goes through the top. It was a more recently made, i.e., a younger bottle than an older bottle like this. At least that's what I've always been told. And there's an argument about where the term soccer came from, but I believe it actually did originate in England, but they've stopped using the term, or at least it never caught on the way it caught on over here, because over here, we didn't want to confuse it with football, which is the game in which you sometimes kick the ball. As George Washington explained on Saturday Night Live. Why Simul AC? I love watching videos of people digging through 100-year-old landfills or trash balls. My brothers and I used to go out in the woods, and you'd find places where people threw stuff, and a lot of times it'd be rusty cans on the surface, and you poke around, you can find bottles in it once in a while, but a lot of them would be broken. Silent Hangus, you hear about the guy from UK who sued a casino and lost, ended up owing the casino money. Yes, I did, but I think it happened a few months ago. I had several people send that to me recently. Jerry Dodge, sorry to correct you. I believe you meant to say George Carlin, not George. No, I meant to say George Washington. There's the George Washington skit with Nate Bargatze, where he's playing George Washington, and he says that here in America we'll have the right to play football. Someone goes, football? He goes, yeah, a game in which you handle the ball with your hands. Will there be any kicking? A little, but it's a recent video, a fairly recent skit. Idris Taylor says that at the time that they came up with the phrase for soccer, they were trying to differentiate between rugby and association football. Okay. 116-3562. Okay, Mr. Steve, I'll try to be there Saturday. Have a good week. And you too, my friend. Canadian Robot Lady says, time to go. Got to find a map of Michigan, fusible iron-on, and an XL pair of gloves. That's probably about right, right? Have a good week. And everyone here in the chat, it's been a splice. Winnie, SNL still on TV? Presumably, but I watch all the skits on YouTube. Prodigal Stranger, if you made a mistake, you'll have to post a whole new live stream with corrections. I was actually thinking about taking one of my older videos that got complaints and doing a review of my own video, like a reaction where I react to my own video, but with all the corrections, and then waiting about a week and then doing it again with the same. It'd be like Inception, except not as tricky. Silent Hangus, I'm late. Is it smoky in Michigan? It was up until yesterday. It was. Viva Rabinowitz, good to see you, my friend. Nothing like a brief rain after a dust storm leaves everything in the mud. Miko Angel, infinite recursion. Good word, recursion. I like that. It's a term linguists use to describe about how you can take a sentence and almost always tack more onto it, and more onto it, and more onto it. Ad infinitum. Canadian Robot Lady, Louis Browning wants to point out that they have what you're looking for on Rally House. Rally House. Little plug there. Well, Bill, I used to search rural New England where I grew up for bottles as a young teenager. Yeah, like I said, my brothers and I were tramping around in the woods in the UP and we were bored. And we saw a bunch of cans. We go, oh, let's go check for bottles. Once in a while, we'd find a few. Good citizen, thanks to one and all. Have a good weekend. Sometimes I listen to myself wonders if the Canadian Robot Ladies watched Rust Valley Restorers. Great stuff. I have not. Jerry Dodge said, I've seen a book with an index where the word recursion referenced the very page where the word recursion occurs. Spencer Andrus, hello, Steve from Tunkhannock, Pennsylvania. It's probably pronounced Smith, but no, Tunkhannock? 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 No one knows. No one knows. Steve G, so much fun for real, Steve. Everyone have a great day. Thanks. Darkwood, aloha, Steve. 'Cause remember, aloha also means goodbye, which I think was also a really bad made-for-TV movie. Oh, Fatty Butterpants, I have to go out and use recursion in a sentence. Later, folks. Silent Hangus, was the Ford tariff video political? I believe no. I had several people thank me for posting it and keeping it non-political. I could have made it political by giving you my opinions on either the tariffs or the people involved in the tariffs, et cetera, but I didn't. I didn't. And Heather was not quite out of the room. She says, yes, I have seen that show. I know where it's located, and they're a fun crew. So anyway, that does wrap it up for me. I'll see you guys next week. Of course, videos all week long. Video going up on Thursday at 3 o'clock will be the Lehto Rama video. Been busily editing that. I hope people notice there's a little bit more work put into those, but you never know. And I will talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.